Welcome, everyone. We are so excited you're here. We'll give just a couple seconds here as I see people entering through the waiting room. We have a really exciting session for you today. This is different than what we've done before. This isn't our regular webinar. We're going to do an activity lab. And I am so pleased to have with me Karen, say hey, and Niles, and Sylvia from Mariah's daughter has joined us again. And we are thrilled to be able to bring this to you. What we're going to do today is take a walk through some of the activities in our brand new activity guide for facilitators. I'm holding the draft copy in my hand here, very exciting. If you were at our webinar a few weeks ago, then you got to walk through that. And if you weren't here, then we encourage you to check that replay out so that you can get a inside look at the new book. We are going to jump in. The first thing that I'd like to ask you to do is, if you have a window nearby, look out your window. And if you don't, have this picture of looking outside a window that you can use for this activity. What I'd like you to do is take a couple of seconds. We'll probably spend about 15, 20 seconds looking outside or at this image and notice 3 natural things that you can see. Now let your eyes rest for a moment and take a slow breath. We'll breathe in 2 and exhale 4. And would you all like to share? You can share in the chat, and our team, go ahead and share what might have come up for you, 3 natural things that you saw, and if that had any special meaning come to you.
Well, Michelle, when you use the word natural, I was thinking like organic stuff, but I'm going to maybe reframe that. I think what I was drawn to were the different colored flowers, the yellow, the blue, and the pink flowers. But if I'm not going to go that organic route, the birdhouse has tremendous meaning for me. You know, I have a lovely backyard and really nice bird baths, and to watch the birds flitter around and wash themselves is just so relaxing. So I'm drawn to the birdhouse.
Perfect. Thanks, Karen. Anyone else want to share something? For me, I can see out my window. I live in the South, so I have a tree that blooms in January, February. But all the flowers fell off in the last couple of weeks, and now they're dead on top of the bush underneath it. But then I realized this morning that if I just tilt a little bit, I get a view of the azaleas that have just popped out on the bush farther away. So that just kind of resonated with me that, you know, seasons change, our life changes, and, you know, we might say maybe there's a hard season or something that we're missing, and then, you know, maybe there's something else that can spark some joy. Niles, Sylvia, do you want to share anything? Okay, if you don't.
For me, kind of just to go based off what you said, as I look outside, leaving my apartment, sometimes I tend to just kind of walk by, go about my day, walk up the stairs. But when you give us this activity and allowed me just to sit here and just be in the moment and just take that time outside, I could actually realize that the tree near me, that with the weather we've had here, it's just been no leaves, no flowers, but look, there's some beautiful white flowers out there, and it's given me a chance to kind of be more observant and slow down life a little bit.
That's awesome. Thank you. Margaret, is there anything in the chat that I can't see the chat right now, y'all? So
yeah, no questions, just some really lovely things. Purple flowers, butterfly in the hollies, a berm covered with grass, bare birch trees, beautiful frozen lake spruce trees, rocks, buds. I saw a bee.
awesome.
All kinds of nice stuff.
Awesome. Thank you all for participating in that. So an activity like this, when we think about what we notice, maybe noticing something we didn't expect, it can help participants to just take a moment to arrive mentally and settle into the session without any pressure to share, or it can just be a gentle on ramp when you might have a difficult topic coming, just a way to recollect yourself. So that's the one very simple activity that you can see can be done virtually. You can also do it in person, either if your space has a window, or you could go outside or start outside, or have an image for, or multiple images. You could have them on a table that people could look at. Now we are going to turn to Sylvia, who's going to lead us in an art activity. Sylvia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate the Support After Abortion team for inviting me to share with you today. And I would say it's great to see everyone on the screen, but again, I cannot see everyone as well, but I am just so grateful that you're here. I scripted this out on purpose so I wouldn't miss anything. As a facilitator / participant today, you're welcome to use my script if it helps you do this exercise for the first time. That way today you can fully participate without taking a lot of notes. So let's dive in. Thank you for allowing me to hold this space with you today. I will only be sharing for about 15 minutes. So unfortunately, this exercise typically takes somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes, depending on the number of participants. So be thinking high-level overview today as I share. For more details, feel free to reach out to me. And I would also encourage you, as you look around the screen, if you see a participant that you know or somebody that you want to support along the way, feel free to share an emoji or a comment directly with them. Okay, by show of hands, who in the room has used the mask exercise? You can feel free to put in any adaptations that you like if you use this in the chat so that we can all benefit from additional information. Wonderful. All right, the objective of today's exercise is simply to acknowledge that what we often feel on the inside isn't always what gets expressed to the outside world. So when we think about a mask, several thoughts come to mind. It may be a way to self-protect. It may be a way to project another personality that is maybe more acceptable. It may be a way just to simply take a break from reality and coast until we feel differently. In our context today, masks represent a coping mechanism that we unconsciously use to cover up our emotions from others and sometimes from ourselves. We often mask to continue to function in spaces that may not understand how to acknowledge our particular pain. Masking also allows us to keep going after a painful event without risking vulnerability. So, without judgment, let's explore some of the feelings about our abortions that we may have kept hidden behind a mask. If abortion is not in your past, feel free to draw upon another experience that may have been painful or left you feeling vulnerable. Give yourself permission to start and stop this exercise as you see fit, because it's going to get a little heavy at times. There's no need to force feelings or commit to completing the exercise. So let's start. Get out your mask template if you printed one out. No worries if you didn't. You can just grab a blank sheet of paper and you can draw a mask on it, or you can just simply put a line down the middle of the paper if you want. Once you're ready, just hold up the blank tool that you're going to use. And as Michelle begins to cue the music, we're going to take just 30 seconds to do a really quick warm-up exercise. So get out a pen or pencil if you brought a colored marker, whatever you'd like. And I want you to simply scribble or doodle in the corner of that page or on the back of the page, kind of like when you're trying to figure out if there's ink in the pen that you want to use and it's just not quite writing yet. So just go ahead and take 30 seconds to scribble that. While you're doing that, I'm going to read over you a 30-second contemplation from Saint Teresa of Avila. And at the end, we'll come back together. She says, although it is a great grace from God to practice self-examination, yet too much is as bad as too little, as they say. Believe me, we shall advance more by contemplating the divinity than by keeping our eyes fixed on ourselves, poor creatures that we are. All right. Now I'm going to ask, what situations might you mask in? And in the interest of time, I'm going to ask that you feel free to place your responses in the comments as you feel comfortable doing. I appreciate that very much. And then I'd like you to take just a minute now to connect with yourself about any lingering emotions surrounding your chosen experience. As Michelle cues up the soaking music now, pick a few words to describe your emotions around that time and write them on one side or on the inside of the mask. There's no need to edit what you write. If a shape fits a feeling or a color explains an emotion, feel free to draw that on the mask. If you find yourself feeling anxious or stuck, stop, breathe, and doodle until you recenter. Once the soaking music ends, we'll go ahead and mark the end of our time and we'll gently come back together. And again, feel free to take a cleansing breath at the end. Okay, Michelle. You
Okay.
can write on whatever side of the mask it feels right to you.
Okay.
So thank you for that. Yes. Mm, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. And again, feel free to take a cleansing breath. Next, what we want to do is write out words on the other side of the mask that describe what you show on the outside. For example, what the world sees. You might be feeling anxious right now, for example, about what this exercise could bring up for you, but you choose to show up with a calm demeanor instead. Again, there are no judgments, just noticing. So let's take a few minutes to explore. We'll play that music again and allow you to express yourself in color or shape, how it is you show up to the world. Awesome. Let's gently come back together now. All right, which side of the mask was easiest or hardest to complete and why? Again, feel free to place your comments in the chat. I can ask one of our staff if they'd like to respond.
Well, for me, it was much harder to do the left side to say what I was feeling. So for me, I have not experienced abortion. So I was leaning into the experience after my mom had a stroke and in what I didn't know at the time were her last days. And so those, yeah, those emotions. My family is what do you call it? They're very stoic, so not displaying emotions. So it's much harder to tap into what that underlying thing is.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that, Michelle. Really appreciate your heart.
Yeah, and mine's just the opposite. The right side was harder for me. It was easier for me to remember how I felt after I had my abortion. And I mean, I was really kind of surprised with some of the words that I came up with. Damaged, controlling. Yeah, the left side was harder for me because I spent most of my life on the right side, wearing a mask. I was very insecure as a kid and I appeared overly confident. I would present exactly different than how I actually felt.
For me, I think for me as a man, I feel like it's both sides. I think because a man, I can't speak for other men, but I know for myself and some I've spoken to, we tend to wear our mask all the time, even when we're alone or around others, because one of the feelings when I was going through my abortion experience was I was embarrassed. I didn't feel like that protector, that provider, that warrior, everything in that way, as they say for a man. So when I looked in the mirror, I would tell myself things with the mask on, try to build myself and be confident, even though truly I did not feel this way. And then to go have to do that, wear that mask in front of others and those experiences and try to wear that on like so it's like it never comes off and then it can get tiring. And there's times that even myself and I've seen in other men that mask can slip when that comes out in a burst of anger, sadness, rage, or something like that, because that mask is hard to keep up the whole time.
Wow, thank you. My goodness, thank you so much, Karen, and thank you so much, Niles, for again sharing your heart and really revealing how deep this exercise can be at times. So I really appreciate you guys sharing what you've found to be true for you. If anyone would like to hold their mask up to the camera, they feel comfortable, feel free to do that. This is what I came up with. I had a lot of anger that I showed not only on the inside, but also to the world. A lot of hurt, but what people saw was a steady, secure Sylvia. Because of my profession as a nurse, I couldn't walk around with my emotions on my sleeve. So I masked a lot. Even though I was feeling numb, there were times when I was sarcastic or very cutting with my remarks. So there are lots of things I think that as we work this through, and feel free to continue to work on this. It does not have to be done today. It can be an ongoing work and things may change as well as you go. So I really appreciate everyone participating in this today. Your intention matters, and I really, really, again, appreciate your time. I pray that this was useful, both not only for yourself, but also will be for potential clients. And again, I thank Support After Abortion for your generosity in sponsoring this gathering, which I hope is one of many for the new activities book. Really looking forward to that.
Thank you, Sylvia. Really appreciate it. Yeah, my mask. There we go. It was very interesting exercise. And it makes me want to, because it was harder to tap into what I was feeling at that moment necessarily. Now it kind of makes me think when I'm, on my right side, what I'm asking is calm, busy, serving, like nothing's really different. And so it's making me think, you know, when I'm disinclined to dive into an emotion and I'm in that other side, smiling and serving and
Yeah.
being busy, is there something else that I'm not tapping into or acknowledging? We do want to share with you that this activity is in the activity guide, and Sylvia, her ministry is from a religious perspective, but every activity in the book is the original structure is neutral, and then there are adaptations that you can use for virtual one-on-one and faith-based settings. So every activity you can do to meet your clients wherever they happen to be. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to have Karen jump in, and she's going to lead us in an activity.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oh,
The title of this exercise is the regret rehearsal flip. Regret is one of the most common emotions that people experience after abortion. So what does regret look like? It's, you know, regret-based thoughts can be powerful roadblocks to growth and well-being. By developing compassionate and forward-looking responses, we can acknowledge past actions without letting them define our present or our future. So regret, when I think of regret statements, it often involves dwelling on what could have been or should have been. Should is a very condemning, judgmental term. And it leads to feelings of guilt and shame, which are also very common emotions experienced after abortion. So if you guys have your paper and pens, let me tell you a little bit about the stages of regret first, because you might notice this in the clients that you work with. And I thought it was really interesting when I did this little bit of research. So there are 3 stages of regret. The ruminating stage, which is reliving the past event repeatedly and focusing on fault. The self-criticism stage, and these can overlap and you can be in more than one stage at a time. Self-criticism is harsh, judgmental, and has negative self-talk in it. You know how we do that, right? The what ifs that you can never answer to your satisfaction, just thoughts, like negative thoughts that just consume you, if only kind of thoughts, those kinds of things. That's self-criticism. And then the paralysis stage is where there's an inability to take action for fear of repeating the mistake again. So just think about that for a couple of minutes and see if you can identify where clients that you've worked with in after abortion support, where they land on the regret meter. So take your paper and pens. I'm going to give you some instructions. I'm going to give you some examples. And then if you want to put anything in the chat, if you want to share what you write down, what your regret statement is, and how you flip that into something positive for you, we'll bring those to light so that we can talk about them and validate how you're feeling. So, like I said before, when regret comes up, it often starts with words like I should have or if only. One way to soften that is to flip it into something you can carry forward with compassion. Here are a couple examples. I should have spoken up. What if we replace that with next time I want to be more honest? Right? We probably all have held our tongue at times and later wish that we had spoken up, right? Do you hear the difference in the regret statement, the negative self-talk and the positive? It's not excusing what happened, the mistake that we made, but it's just flipping it into what can we do moving forward so we don't make that mistake again. Right? Here's another one. I'll never forgive myself. How often have you heard that? How often have you said it yourself? What if we replace this with I'm learning to be patient with myself as I heal? Just takes so much pressure off, right? And here's another one that I added, and this is true for me. And I disclosed earlier that I had an abortion when I was younger. I should have thought my decision through more. I was so afraid. What if I replace that with, even today, next time I'll reach out to a friend who can help me talk through my decision, who could help me slow down, right? So the instructions for you are to write one regret thought and then rewrite it into a flipped version. If you're comfortable, put that in the chat. We'll talk about them as soon as these next couple of minutes are done. And then we're going to have one final thing to work on. So I don't have soothing music for you. I could hum for you if you want me to. I don't think you want me to do that for real. All right, so you're going to take one regret thought and then rewrite it into a flipped version, which is forward thinking with compassion. One more minute. You can write more than one. Okay, get it in the chat. I'm going to have Margaret come on in just a few seconds and share what some people have said. If you're comfortable, you don't have to share it. This is for you. Okay, Margaret, what do you got for us?
Jane's comment, I shouldn't have kept it a secret for so long versus next time I'll find someone I can trust and talk to them.
Perfect.
Then we have I should not have been so selfish. Next time I will take the time to see how my choices affect others.
Mm.
I will never be whole again versus I am on a continual growth journey. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I should have prayed about it first. Next time, I'll make sure I take a few minutes to talk to God about it.
Okay. These are all really great, people.
These are awesome. I should have been a better mom to my daughter. Instead, I did the best I could in the circumstances, and I still have time to reconcile and make amends.
Beautiful.
We're talking about grace here, right? Showing ourselves grace.
That's all I've
Thank
got
you.
so far.
Anybody from staff? Niles, how about you? Like, give us a man's perspective.
I think for me is mine I had written down is like one thing I constantly told me in my time was be a better man. I should be a better man. And what I changed it to is now is just keep learning to grow into a better man and allow myself that I'm not perfect.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so let's reflect on what we just did. You know, what felt different when you flipped it into something more positive? What was that like for you? Anything that you noticed about your body, tension, anything like that? Like, what was different?
Seeing relief in the chat.
Yeah,
Felt a little guilty, like I was covering up for myself. I can relate.
yeah.
Felt like I was releasing a burden.
Hmm. It's from condemnation to grace. That's the only way I can say it, right?
This is a good one that change can happen and I can get unstuck.
Awesome. Awesome.
I realize there's more than one way to see something in my life.
Oh, amen.
Love that.
So here's another question to ponder just for a few minutes here. How could practicing this shift help you when regret comes up in daily life? Because it does. What would it look like if at the end of our day we wrote down a regret that we had throughout the day and a positive, forward-looking, compassionate statement that we can remind ourselves of? What would that look like? I like that idea, actually.
I remember hearing something recently that was like brain science saying that the as we say positive statements, our brain will continue to say positive statements. And if we say negative statements to ourselves, our brain continues to say negative statements. And for some reason, our brains are more, they give us more negativity when we have negativity. Um, I don't remember all the details of it, but it was very interesting. And it kind of, I was thinking of that as you were talking about this, that, um, not that like emotional bypassing. We still want to recognize where we're sitting, and yet
Mhm.
trying to do the more positive self-talk. And then that can start that cycle of not toxic positivity, but authentic positivity.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that, Michelle. I appreciate it. I think
And
I might try that, you know?
I'll be honest, I can be the toxic positivity person sometimes, especially the
Mhm.
hat I wear sometimes as a coach, and my players come to me and complain about school, this and that. And they love talking to me, but they hate talking to me because they'll come to me and be like, Coach, I had a tough time with class, and I broke my pencil, or I dropped my lunch. And I said, well, isn't it a blessing today we get to play football? And they just kind of look at me with that dead stare and like, Coach, I just told you all of this, and you're thinking, I was like, because if you stay in that headspace of all poor me, which happened all over the day, and then I kind of tell them, I try not to be a toxic masculinity, but I tell them as a man, sometimes we have to put things to a side, especially when it's minor things and we got to move forward. So I give them positivity, but I give a lesson as well.
Mm.
That's great.
Well, I wanted to share also, one of the things too, Karen, that I didn't get a chance to mention with the previous exercise, but I feel like it's applicable here as well, is we need people to talk to that we trust. Sometimes we just need that positive person, like Niles just said, to speak life over us, because there are times when we just can't break that loop on our own. Also, Support After Abortion has a hotline. There's a place where you can go to be able to talk to somebody anonymously. Therapy or pastoral counseling, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, because what you don't want to do is go denial into despair, and that cycle down that sometimes it's hard for us to get out of on our own. Journaling, positive affirmations that does have scientific backing when we speak positively to ourselves. Praise and worship, a music playlist that we just can't, cut off, but we know that it's doing us good. And then venturing out into the natural world, which I know we're going to get into here in just a minute. But all of those things stand in the place of our ability sometimes to do the work.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sylvia.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if I can just wrap it up with some adaptations based on how you meet with and support people that have been impacted by abortion is virtually like we just did it here, and they can put their information in the chats. If you're doing it one-on-one, then you could brainstorm with the client that you're working with to come up with those compassionate flips together, and you could bring in a faith component. Facilitator may reframe the second statement with a faith truth, and I'll give you an example. I'll never forgive myself. God's mercy is greater than my mistakes. So you can bring God into it if that's what your client wants.
Awesome. Thank you. Sylvia had just mentioned music, and we're going to turn to Niles, who's going to do a music activity with us.
Of course. Thank you, Michelle. First thing I want to say is thank you all. I appreciate you all taking the time to sit with You Know My Pain and God Can Use a Broken Man by Jason Crabb. And I just want to create a little space for us. And with that space, I want us to share what came up for us. Not yet, but I want it to be for you in your mind, nothing forced, but just whatever stood out from your notes or reflections. And I want you to think on those for a little bit. And it can be something you look at your notes, you look at one word that describes what hit you most, or maybe one line from the song that stuck with you. For example, for me, there was a few words, and I like to maybe save them, put them on little pieces of paper and cut them out or tear them off. I'll put on my mirror, maybe my wallet, just constant reminders of why is this so heavy for me, or has something that can be a reflection for me at times. Or maybe it could be something more uplifting. It could be something that it can be a positive thing you heard that really stuck with you. I know for me, I'll have these things I say all the time and I can go on this rant, but just a few things like that. And then take 30 seconds with whatever you chose that line or word and just think a little bit.
Niles, can I respond to that?
Of
I was
course.
surprised. I was surprised because I listened to these yesterday. I was surprised by what came up for me. And it's in the title, two words, you know. It like ran me over. And then, I mean, you know, God knows me. He knows my struggles. He knows my sorrows. He knows when I drop to my knees.
Thank you for sharing that, Karen. And to
Yeah.
piggyback off of that, as I continue with just for me, I can share a few thoughts that what Karen said stuck out to me because especially hearing it from a man say this, it can feel a little bit different because we're not used to men being this vulnerable, this open and communicating their emotions. So I know it's a song, but it hit different for me because if he can do this and present it to the world and be this transparent, what's making it hard for me just sharing it with you all or others that I meet, sharing my story experience, or even being transparent to in just normal life, just general with my players, friends, family. So that's what stuck with me the most. Would you mind sharing it in the chat of maybe what word or line came up for you, and then maybe sharing a little bit why it stuck out for you?
While people are putting their thoughts in the chat, I'll share that I love music. These particular two songs are religious pieces because the God Can Use a Broken Man comes from our Finding Solid Ground video series, which is a religious resource for men. And the other song was shared with Niles by a participant in the group, and it's a really powerful song. And for me, that song, what kept sticking out was how the man sings, "Don't forget me." You know, I need healing too, and that fear that we've been left behind somehow. And then in the other one, I've heard that song so much while we've worked through Finding Solid Ground, but kind of like other things, every time you hear something, you can hear something different. And this week, what stood out for me was looking at a mountain I cannot climb. How often does that seem like whatever the trouble is, the struggle, it's just insurmountable. And I just thought that was beautiful. And as Niles mentioned, with all of the videos, all the songs, which all have a YouTube video link, it's just so powerful to see men singing and playing and being in the recording studio and all of that. And that's great with the God Can Use a Broken Man song because there's so many men in that
Yeah.
one. All right. Margaret, are there thoughts in the chat that you want to bring in?
Yes. Someone saying thank you for the encouragement to use music in small groups. She said she loves doing so. And an overall reminder that hanging on to God is my only hope for healing and growth in this life. I personally found it cathartic. Um, my pain gave me great hope. Please don't pass me by. My soul's needs to breathe. I'm waiting on believing. My hope is in you, Lord. One of the scripture truths I hit on most in my groups is that God gives beauty for ashes. God can use a broken man perfectly relate to that. I think of how many lives I've touched as a result of my abortion. The reconciliation I've had with a son I didn't choose, wow, brings me to tears every time. Only God can take something as tragic as abortion and turn it into a life-giving ministry. My pain reminded me that we as humans are limited in our understanding of each other, but God is not limited in that way.
Perfect. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I also want to remind you, as we have for everything, that we very much want to meet everybody where they are. And we are curating playlists of music, both religious and secular. You can drop songs in the chat, you can email them to us. We're getting a lot of fantastic suggestions of religious music for healing. But if you know some that would resonate with people who are secular, then that would be fantastic to share that with us. Thank you, Niles. And thank you, everybody, for participating. So the next thing we're going to do, hopefully y'all had an opportunity to take a look at the nature-based healing resource, which is mentioned in the new activity guide for facilitators. In the activity guide, there are some activities that you can do within a group and one-on-one very simply. And then the other thing is you can use the nature-based healing resource, which is written directly to individuals who are struggling after abortion and walks them through ideas for 25 different activities that they can go into nature outdoors to do and reflections in that process. And then you can bring that into your group like we're going to do today. So I invite anyone who was able to do an outdoor activity and reflection, if you'd like to share in the chat how that experience went for you. I will share one while you all have a chance to write in there. I don't have an image of it, so just imagine a waterfall, not one of those that's just, the ripply kind over some rocks, but a rushing, gushing waterfall that you can stand under, and, a pool of water around it. I had something come up about 5 weeks ago that made me really, really angry, which is not that typical for me. So it was very, very, it's hard to let go of that emotion and that sense of the waterfall. I did not stand under said waterfall. I looked from a distance, but it's so loud and it's so powerful. And it made me think how that's anger. And if I'm standing under that waterfall, that's all I can think about. That's all I can do. I can't hear myself. I can't hear anybody talking to me. They can't hear me if I try to talk to them. And when I'm enough removed from that situation, then it starts to calm a little and ripple. And then you get farther out and the water is calmer. And, at the time, there were some people who suggested that I speak to the person about this situation that made me so angry. And I'm like, I did the angry letter that we talked about last time. In fact, I've written a few of the angry letters, but they were not in that was not the time and space. And I think that waterfall helps me see that that's okay. I need to wait until I'm in that calm area to be able to get my thoughts into a better spot and then discern whether that's something to talk about. So I just love how nature can help us think more deeply and see something that we might not be seeing in a way that we wouldn't if we were just reading a book or sitting at home or even having a conversation. So anybody else on the team want to share while we're letting people have space to write?
Yeah, I'll share this. I shared this once before. I used to work a whole lot more than I work now. I have some better boundaries when it comes to work. I do what I got to do to get my job done, but it filled my time because I had so much time. This was before my mom got real sick. And I was off for we get a big chunk of time off over the Christmas holiday. And I think I took some extra days around it. I think I was off 16 days during that time. And I sat out in my lanai. I live in Florida, so December is a good month to sit outside. And I was probably out there for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden I heard the birds chirp. I couldn't remember the last time that I heard that, right? And I was noticing on the list, nature-based healing and the emotion that it helps to calm, and all the things that I really like to do, because I have a beautiful backyard, as I said earlier, is to watch the butterflies. I got some plants that really attract butterflies, to watch the squirrels run on my fence on the back of my yard, and to watch the birds play in my bird bath. And every one of those deals with anxiety. I never thought of myself as an anxious person, but all of those three things are really calming for me.
So thank you so much for sharing, Karen. Tabitha, thanks for sharing your comment that she went to the park and just watched the waves, and that movement of water let those tears flow, which is, tears are so releasing, and being able to have thoughts that maybe we wouldn't be experiencing when we're not in nature. We have another loving bird. I love birds too. Walking in the midst of God's creation brings me great peace and His beauty. Likes using the idea of nature for reflections. We're going to do one final activity. It can be very helpful for participants when you've done activities that have exposed emotions, gotten things working, that they have an opportunity to reground before going back into the rest of their day. So we're going to do one of those. And if you had the opportunity, one of the prepare for this was to get something from nature that had a texture. Did anybody do that? You can hold up your thing in your screen. Awesome. So we encourage everybody, we invite you to put into the chat what it is that you brought. And as we think about this, I'm going to have you do a couple of things with it. So we've got a seashell, a small stone. Mine is a skinny little pine cone remnant. So first of all, just take a moment to think about the texture, to feel it, to examine the texture of it. Someone had already written that theirs is very smooth. Mine is extremely prickly. And does it have a temperature to it? Cool, warm, indescript. What about the weight? Is it really light? Is it very heavy? Somewhere in between? What's it feel like as you're holding that? Notice if it has edges or shape. Is it rounded? Is it jagged? And notice the color or the details, spots, lines, layers. And then I invite just to take a moment to reflect on what your physical and visual observations have been, and just see what comes up for you. I'll give that a minute. And if you want to drop a thought in the chat, you're welcome to do that. I'll share mine, and then I'll see if anyone on the team has one they want to share. So as I shared, this was first when I went out in nature, I found like a regular pine cone. I'm like, okay, that's a pine cone. Maybe I'll think about that. It's got one really flat side. Maybe that has meaning. And then I found this one that was a pine cone at one point in time. And as soon as I picked it up, it broke. It's very dry. It's extremely prickly. It looks like some animal has gnawed all over it. And to me, what came to mind was how so many of our clients feel broken. Maybe they feel dried out or chewed up and spit out, that, life's hard. They don't feel whole. And that's just what came to me, was sitting with that awareness. Team, you have anything that you want to share?
For me personally, I can't take it down and show you all, but it was a gift from my son. He found a rock outside. He came inside so excited. It's like a very smooth black rock, and I didn't want to tell him I think it's just a piece of the road next to us. So I just told him it was like granite or something, just to go in his imagination because he was so excited. But the first thing he said is, "Dad, can you have it? Can you keep it?" So for me, it's just like I use it occasionally just to rub on like calming techniques and certain things like that. But really, the sentimental value is just the fact that he would find something outside like that and give it to me. So it just made me appreciate the little things outside and more, and just help me in my mindset. So whenever I'm always thinking of what's so big in the world, I think of this small rock that my son thought of me just to give me. So it's like don't get tired of doing the little things is what it kind of reminded me of.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Niles. Karen, Sylvia, either of you want to share?
I have to confess, I didn't bring anything from outside.
No show and tell?
I forgot that one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just really,
That's okay.
I can share my shell from my safe place, which is the beach. And what it reminded me of was all of the different variations of colors and textures and how life is like that. It's an up and down, variegated experience, and yet it still makes something beautiful at the end of all of that change and iteration.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. Okay, so first thing I really need to say is I know Karen really, really well, and we're friends. And so it felt completely natural to say, what? No show and tell? But I would never, ever want to do that as a facilitator. That would be like back to that webinar that you and Niles did with the exaggerated, like, oh my goodness, why did you do that? So that's a definite no-no. All right, so we are seeing in the chat, Jane, I love your comment that your shell is worn with time and has sharp edges that have been softened, same way that you feel now at the age that you are. There's another one with so what is it that's unique, rich colored, weathered round wedges that's been through a lot, but it's beautiful? What was the item? So tell us what your item was.
Bark.
Bark. Oh,
It's
awesome.
bark with like a unique design in it.
Perfect. I went out looking for bark. That was what I originally thought of, but my trees here do not have bark. And Cindy had rock bark. Cool. Another shell. Sage. It smells wonderfully refreshing. Awesome. Well, we are so thankful for you all for your participation. I see there's a question here. Where can I buy this book? The book is called The Activity Guide for Facilitators Walking Together Through Abortion Healing. We are eager for you to be able to get it. We are waiting for Amazon to release it from their production queue. We will send out an email to everyone who registered for this event, as well as the webinar as soon as it's available. You'll be able to get it in a paperback from Amazon, as well as a digital download from our e-store. And you'll have an opportunity for a limited time to get it at a discounted rate. I want to thank Karen and Niles for being with us today, and a special thank you to Sylvia, who had an inspiration that sparked the idea for this as we were talking before the webinar a few weeks ago. She's like, wouldn't it be great if we could share an art activity? I'm like, yeah, we don't have time for that in the webinar, but hey, why don't we just do a whole session? We appreciate all of you being here. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. It was a fun one. We will see you soon.